Hi, in September 2005 I was hospitalized and diagnosed with psychotic delusions and bipolar being depression and anxiety. With the help of Maria, who is a clinical nutritionist with over 30 years of experience, I was able to significantly improve my depression by changing my diet. Maria is also an author of 7 books on food and health, and she has hosted 4 TV series in New Zealand, Australia and Canada, so she knows what she's talking about. Let's go talk to Maria. Hi Maria.
Hi.
How does diet influence mood?
Well, first of all, we have to fully appreciate that the brain and the body are connected by more than the neck.
Yeah.
You know, this is an amazing and fully integrated system where no one part exists in isolation. There are many dietary factors that affect mood. Probably first of all, blood sugar levels. Now, blood sugar or blood glucose, it's the same thing. This is the chief fuel that we have for the brain and the body. And although the brain is only about 2% of our body weight, it utilizes more blood sugar than any other organ. And this is the part of us that is first to feel the lack of blood sugar. Now, blood sugar affects us even when we sleep. Because there isn't much storage room here for blood sugar, when we sleep, the brain gets very busy doing repairs and rebuilding. So we need to have steady blood sugar. Muscles, in contrast, we store the blood sugar there, and so every time we exercise, and here's where exercise is so important for mood and mental health, then we break down that blood sugar and get it circulating to the brain. So I often say to my clients who maybe aren't that keen on exercise, you know, do my 10-minute test. And within 10 minutes of just something simple like brisk walking, we get blood sugar circulating and feel much better. Okay. But in the main, blood sugar levels rely on what we eat. So we need some high fiber carbohydrate, we need protein, we need a little bit of fat at each meal and snack. And this allows blood sugar to gradually rise, especially important in the morning, because that's the longest time usually we've been without eating, and some steady fuel for the brain. So it allows blood sugar to rise up and be maintained for hours. Yeah. In contrast, if we have something like, you know, white bread, toast, and jam, that will break down rapidly into blood sugar and create what is called spiking. So we have spiking levels of blood sugar where it goes up swiftly, hence the attraction to those sorts of foods if we haven't stabilized our blood sugar through more natural means. So we have that spiking level, but what goes up must come down. And we also get the downward spiral.
Wow. How are mental illness and diet connected?
Well, there are so many ways. Now, just one is the fact that the brain is more than 50% fat. And that most of that fat is a form called omega-3. Omega-3 is found in dark, oily types of fish, like salmon is the #1 source, for instance. And in countries which eat a lot of fish, there is much less depression. In countries where there is little fish eaten, there is much more depression. Omega-3 is critical not just for the structure of the brain, but also its function. And omega-3 is also anti-inflammatory. So most disorders of mind and body are related to inflammation. So this works for us in so many different regards.
What are food intolerances?
Food intolerances have a wide range. Now, at one end, you have the really serious disorders, such as when people, you know, maybe eat a small amount of peanut and, you know, they die. So we have that extreme level. But for most people, it's more subtle. And it affects them, perhaps especially when they're already under stress or they haven't slept well, whatever. Now, the process, it has to do with digestion. And digestion from that, from eating our food, and of course as a nutritionist I'm incredibly focused on the quality of our food, but even more important than the quality of our food is how well we digest and break that down. So only then do we get the benefits, the vitamins and minerals, for instance, that are critical to the structure and function of the brain. So we only get the benefits of those once we have successfully digested them. So I suggest people do a little bit of easy self-analysis about the quality of their digestion to see if their brain is getting sufficient nutrients. Now, for instance, do you suffer from reflux? That's pain or pressure up here, or an acid taste or burning in the stomach. If you bend your left elbow and hit your chest, that's where your stomach is. What about queasiness or nausea? What about lower belly pain, discomfort, gas, constipation or loose bowel function? All of those are indicators, even if you're eating fabulous food, you are not breaking it down efficiently. And then what happens is that little fractions of these foods pass through the gut wall. The gut is the small and the large intestine, which all opened up is larger than a tennis court. And it's extremely thin, thousandths of a millimeter. So what's meant to happen if we digest efficiently is all our food gets broken down into energy and building materials. But if something isn't broken down properly, then a particle passes through the gut wall and affects us wherever we have a weak link, and we all do, where it becomes pro-inflammatory. Now, for instance, people with mental illnesses, what sometimes can happen, some of these fractions in foods, which most people break down efficiently, some of these are forms of morphine. And these morphines, if they're not broken down, they go to the brain and they trigger the same drug receptors, just as heroin would. And so we have a compulsive desire around these foods, and they affect us at a mini level, of course, like a drug would. So they become very attractive, and we briefly feel better when we have them, just like if you gave heroin to a heroin addict. They would briefly feel better, but it's at long-term cost. Even if you do break down the morphine components, anyone who is not digesting properly, those fractions, as I say, create inflammation. The body then puts on a red alert. You release adrenal hormones, which give you heightened, alertness. You release more blood sugar. So temporarily you feel better when you're eating the foods that are working against you.
Nicely put. What are serotonin and melatonin?
Serotonin and melatonin are neurotransmitters. Now, you and I communicate with words, but the brain communicates with neurotransmitters. These are like courier drivers that rush around with messages like put on the accelerator and have more alertness and energy, or put on the brake and relax and chill out. So we need those messages at the right time. All neurotransmitters are made from protein, and all neurotransmitters function on the basis of vitamins and minerals. So we're back to the importance of diet and digestion. Now, serotonin is often called the happy or feel-good neurotransmitter. And a lot of the world's drugs are based on altering serotonin levels for conditions around compulsiveness, impulsivity, learning disorders, bipolar, depression. However, these drugs, thank heavens we have them, and I'm all for medications in crisis. But for the management of chronic problems, they all have side effects. And one of the side effects to these serotonin-altering medications is gut. They adversely affect the health of the gut, which then makes for more mood problems. So serotonin, interestingly enough, 95% of it is produced in the gut. And we, as I say, that comes back to diet and digestion. And from our production of serotonin, we can also produce another neurotransmitter called melatonin. And melatonin is important for rest and sleep. Now, to help melatonin, melatonin rises with the dark of the night. So for anyone who has sleep problems, relaxation problems, then we want to regulate melatonin. And an easy lifestyle way of doing this is to prepare yourself for sleep at night. Often we're surrounded by bright lights, working on a computer, etc. So at night before bed, we need to have a distinct period where lights go down, energy expenditure goes down, we really chill out. Go to bed, make sure your room is as dark as possible. Turn off or cover up even the light from your alarm clock. Can interfere with the production of melatonin. Then in the morning, make sure you're up by 8 a.m. because sleep after that tends to be unrefreshing. That's when we need the natural light of day to inhibit the sedating effect of melatonin. So head outside, be an excellent time for some exercise, which even again, 10 minutes. I know, I'm busy. People say how busy they are. But 10 minutes then to help with your sleep later will give you more time and energy later.
Wow, that's great advice. What does caffeine do?
Well, caffeine, it's become such a social drink and it's all very tasty and attractive. First of all, caffeine is not just coffee, but it's also found in black leaf tea, with Earl Grey having the most caffeine content. It's also in soft drinks, which a lot of children are consuming far too much of. It's in so-called energy drinks, which are really spiking drinks. They'll take you up, but they'll drop you down again. And it's in chocolate. So anyone with sleep problems, I do recommend no caffeine in the afternoons. This is because it can take the liver, which is one of your most hard-working organs and the largest organ in your body. It can take the liver 8 hours to be free of the effects of caffeine and break it down. Now, caffeine is not only a stimulant, but it is also very acidic. Now, acidic substances, then they can act as ones because our blood system, our bloodstream is meant to be slightly alkaline, and if it's not, for consuming too many acidic substances, the body will remove alkaline minerals, chiefly potassium, magnesium, and calcium, from your storage sites, such as bones and teeth and muscles. And potassium, calcium, and magnesium are very important for the production of neurotransmitters, and they're very important for digestion. Digestion works on the basis of contraction, which particularly requires calcium, and relaxation, which particularly requires magnesium. Calcium, magnesium, and potassium are also critical for nerves. So anyone with anxiety issues, impulsive, compulsive issues, sleep problems, you want your nervous system health to be as good as possible. So caffeine encourages the loss of those very mineral alkaline helpers in your urine.
Cool. You mentioned fizzy drinks, and they contain a lot of sugar. Is this healthy?
You'll never guess what my answer will be.
Oh no.
Now, not only, well, first of all, we'll talk about sugar. Now, when I'm talking about sugar and the problems of sugar, I'm referring to refined sugar. So that's like the sugar you see in a sugar bowl. And that's the sugar that the food industry, because it is a stimulant and thus people are attracted to it, the food industry puts into not only heaps of sweet foods, but all our savory snacks and meat pies and lasagna and